Impact Wrestling results December 30th, 21. This year's Impact Year-End Awards Special is hosted by Josh Matthews and Scott D'Amore. First match, Moose C versus Eddie Edwards in a Full Metal Mayhem match for the Impact World Championship. Impact Turning Point 2021, Rockers Punches. Forearm Exchange. Knife Edge Chop Exchange. Edwards tells Moose to bring it. Second Forearm Exchange. Machine Gun Chops. Edwards decks Moose with a back elbow smash. Moose with the pump kick. Edwards answers with a blistering chop. Edwards goes for the rolling elbow, but Moose counters with a headbutt. Edwards with a release German suplex. Moose rises back on his feet. Edwards with a back body drop that sends Moose crashing through the table on the floor. Edwards attacks Moose with a loaded garbage can. Edwards rolls Moose back into the ring. Moose exits the ring. Moose clocks Edwards with a cookie sheet. Edwards lands the suicide dive. Edwards repeatedly hits Moose with cookie sheets. Moose reverses out of the Irish whip from Edwards. Moose with a running power bomb onto the rampway. Moose grabs a steel chair. Moose starts choking Edwards with the chair. Moose brings Edwards to the ring apron. Chop/forearm exchange. Moose kicks Edwards in the face. Edwards blocks a boot from Moose. Edwards hits the Death Valley driver on the apron. Edwards throws a chair at Moose. Edwards sends the ladder into Moose's face. Edwards rolls the ladder into the ring. Moose nails Edwards with the pump kick. Moose power bombs Edwards on the apron. Moose power bombs Edwards through the timekeeper's table. Moose rolls another ladder into the ring. Moose sets up a ladder bridge in the corner. Moose stands on the back of Edwards' neck. Moose wraps the chair around Edwards' neck. Moose sends Edwards' neck first into the steel ring post. Moose rolls Edwards back into the ring. Edwards avoids the concerto. Edwards whips Moose with the trash can lid. Edwards lays Moose flat on the ladder bridge. Edwards with another trash can lid shot. Edwards and Moose are trading back and forth shots on the ladder. Moose rakes the eyes of Edwards. Edwards denies the superplex. Edwards with a thumb to the eye. Edwards repeatedly slams Moose's head on the top rung of the ladder. Edwards delivers the sunset flip power bomb through the ladder bridge for a 2 count. Edwards places the other ladder in the corner. Edwards wraps a steel chain around his right knee. Moose denies the Boston knee party. Moose with the Uranage slam. Edwards negates the spear. Edwards with clubbing knee strikes. Edwards hits the Tiger driver. Edwards goes for the Boston knee party, but Moose counters with the buckle bomb into the ladder. Edwards connects with the Boston knee party for a 2 count. Edwards takes the chain off his knee. Moose and Edwards starts swinging kendo sticks at each other. William Morrissey walks down to the ring. Morrissey drops Edwards with the big boot. Moose spears Edwards for a 2 count. Matt Cardona pulls the referee out of the ring. Cardona and Morrissey starts brawling on the outside. Edwards with a vicious kendo stick shot. Edwards with the Kabushi DDT for a 2 count. Edwards starts cutting the ring canvas with scissors. Moose denies the Tiger driver. Edwards denies the Uranage slam. Edwards goes for the Death Valley driver, but Moose lands back on his feet. Moose delivers the low blow. Moose with the Uranage slam onto the exposed ring boards. Moose plants Edwards with the spear to pick up the victory. Winner, still Impact World Champion, Moose via pinfall. Second match, the Decay, C, vs. The Inspiration for the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Impact Bound for Glory 2021, Rosemary and Jessie McKay will start things off. Collar and elbow tie up. McKay backs Rosemary into the turnbuckles. Lee tags herself in. Rosemary avoids the double clothesline. Rosemary screams at the Inspiration. Inspiration pose. Rosemary whips Lee across the ring. Rosemary with a sidewalk slam. Rosemary applies a hammer lock. Rosemary tags in Havoc. Double lariat. Lee tags in McKay. McKay with 2 toe kicks. Havoc denies the Irish whip. Havoc tags in Rosemary. Body avalanche party. Rosemary starts biting McKay's forehead. Rosemary applies the upside down. Rosemary gets distracted by Lee. McKay knocks Rosemary off the ring apron. McKay tags in Lee. Lee rolls Rosemary back into the ring. Lee with clubbing blows to Rosemary's back. Lee with a vertical suplex for a 2 count. Lee tags in McKay. Combination kicks for a 2 count. Rosemary decks McKay with a jawbreaker. Rosemary with a spinning hair mare takedown. Havoc and Lee are tagged in. Havoc with 2 clotheslines. Havoc with a backbreaker/lariat combination. Havoc drops McKay with a body block. Havoc whips McKay into Lee. Havoc with a double body avalanche. Havoc with the double face wash for a 2 count. Havoc tags in Rosemary. Double Irish whip. Lee holds onto the ropes. Lee decks Rosemary with a back elbow smash. Lee sends Havoc tumbling to the floor. Both ladies are knocked down after a double clothesline. Lee tags in McKay. McKay clotheslines Rosemary. McKay with the rolling elbow. McKay with a flying forearm smash. McKay follows that with a vertical suplex. Rosemary reverses out of the Irish whip from McKay. Lee made the blind tag. Lee with the scorpion kick. Lee with a running bulldog into the left knee of McKay for a 2 count. Lee talks smack to Rosemary. Rosemary blocks a boot from Lee. Rosemary hits the reverse DDT. Rosemary tags in Havoc. Backbreaker/spear combination for a 2 count. Havoc stares at McKay. Havoc rocks McKay with a forearm smash. Havoc goes for the running leg drop, but Lee ducks out of the way. McKay drops Rosemary with the big boot. Havoc responds with the sit-out choke bomb. Havoc shrugs off the roundhouse kick. Havoc with a forearm smash. Havoc tags in Rosemary. Lee kicks Rosemary in the gut. Havoc goes for a body slam, but Lee lands back on her feet. Lee ducks a clothesline from Havoc. Lee clotheslines Rosemary over the top rope. Lee with a step-up ends Widgery. Lee with a roundhouse kick. Lee tags in McKay. Inspiration repeatedly drives Havoc's shoulder first into the steel ring post. Rosemary rolls McKay back into the ring. Rosemary transitions into a ground and pound attack. Rosemary ducks a clothesline from McKay. Rosemary applies a waist lock. Rosemary runs McKay into the ropes. McKay tags in Lee. Lee with a vicious knee strike. The Inspiration connects with their powerbomb/neck breaker combination to pick up the victory. Winner, New Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champions, The Inspiration via pinfall. Third match, Kenny Omega, C, with Don Callis vs Sami Callihan in a no disqualification match for the Impact World Championship, Impact Slammiversary 2021. Don Callis joins the commentary team for this match. Callihan attacks Omega before the bell rings. Callihan with the spike pile driver for a 2 count. Callihan slings multiple weapons into the ring. Callihan applies a rear chin lock while sitting on a chair. Callihan is trying to stab Omega with a fork. Omega headbutts Callihan. Omega kicks Callihan in the face. Omega sidesteps Callihan into the turnbuckles. Omega is throwing haymakers at Callihan. Omega ducks a clothesline from Callihan. Callihan denies the sunset flip. Callihan stabs Omega with a pizza cutter. Omega is busted open. Callihan takes a bow. Omega with a gut punch. Omega rocks Callihan with a forearm smash. Omega with a knife edge chop. Omega unloads a flurry of right jabs. Omega with a blistering chop. Callihan reverses out of the Irish whip from Omega. Callihan hits the Death Valley driver. Omega regroups on the outside. Callihan mocks Omega. Omega cracks Callihan with the trash can lid. Omega repeatedly hits Callihan with the metal cookie sheet and the caution sign. Omega puts the trash can on the steel ring post. Callihan rakes the eyes of Omega. Short arm reversal by Omega. Omega with the rolling senton. Omega with the trash can assisted moonsault. Trash can assisted elbow drop for a 1 count. Omega wedges a chair in between the turnbuckles. Omega is lighting up Callihan's chest. Omega decks Callihan with a back elbow smash. Callihan denies the one-winged angel. Callihan with the O'Connor roll for a 2 count. Omega sends Callihan face first into the wedged chair. Don Callis talks smack to Callihan. Omega stands on the back of Callihan's neck. Callihan is busted open. Omega stabs Callihan with a fork. Omega jams the fork into Callihan's mouth. Omega whips Callihan into the steel barricade. Callihan unloads 3 knife-edge chops. Callihan inadvertently chops the steel ring post. Omega with a belly-to-back suplex on the ring apron. Omega pulls out a table from under the ring. Omega with a flying double foot stomp. Omega pulls out another table. Callihan denies the Snapdragon suplex. Callihan starts biting Omega's fingers. Chop exchange. Omega with a thumb to the eye. Callihan applies the groin claw. Callihan with the spike pile driver through the table on the floor. Callihan throws a trash can into Omega's back. Callihan repeatedly slams Omega's head on the trash can. Omega with elbows into the midsection of Callihan. Omega slams Callihan's head on the trash can. Omega goes for the Kotaro Crusher, but Callihan counters with the sidewalk slam on the trash can. Callihan powerbombs Omega through the plywood table for a 2 count. Callihan grabs a barbed wire chair. Omega denies the razor's edge. Omega with the V-trigger. Omega with the Kotaro Crusher into the barbed wire. Omega powerbombs Callihan on the barbed wire chair. V-trigger 2 for a 2 count. Callis tells Omega to finish him. Omega puts Callihan on the top turnbuckle. Omega with a knife-edge chop. Omega bites the open wound of Callihan. Omega with the superplex through a pile of weapons for a 2 count. V-trigger 3. Callihan denies the one-winged angel. Omega kicks Callihan in the face. Callihan with a back fist. Callihan connects with the tombstone pile driver on the barbed wire chair for a 2 count. Omega throws salt at Callihan. Callihan inadvertently lays out Brian Hebner with a pile driver. Omega clocks Callihan with the Impact World title. Omega with a spike pile driver of his own for a 2 count. Omega punches Daniel Spencer, the second official who came into the ring. The Good Brothers starts brawling with Eddie Edwards and Chris Sabin. Callihan drops Omega with the package pile driver for a 2 count. Callihan spills thousands of thumbtacks on the canvas. Callihan gets distracted by Callis. Omega throws thumbtacks into Callihan's face. V-trigger 4 and 5 for a 2 count. Omega shoves thumbtacks into Callihan's mouth. V-trigger 6. Omega plants Callihan with the one-winged angel on the thumbtacks to pick up the victory. After the match, the light goes out in the build. Jay White walks down to the ring. Unfortunately, the PPV went off air right before we got any indication of White declaring himself the next challenger for Kenny Omega's Impact World title. Winner, still Impact World Champion, Kenny Omega via pinfall. 4th match, Josh Alexander, C, versus Ace Austin versus Trey Miguel versus Chris Bay versus Petey Williams versus Rohit Raju in a Ultimate X match for the Impact X Division Championship. Impact Slammiversary 2021, a Pier 6 brawl ensues after the bell rings. Miguel repeatedly stomps on Raju's chest. Bay gets treated like a punching bag. Alexander whips Bay across the ring. Alexander scores the elbow knockdown. Austin throws Williams into the steel ring steps. Austin clips the left knee of Alexander. Austin kicks the back of Alexander's head. Alexander avoids the roundhouse kick. Alexander with a release German suplex. Raju slams Alexander's head on the top rope. Raju can't reach the red cables. Alexander drops Raju with the big boot. Standing switch exchange. Alexander goes for a release German suplex, but Bay lands back on his feet. Bay sidesteps Alexander into the turnbuckles. Bay with a shoulder block. Bay slips over Alexander's back. Bay drops down on the canvas. Bay leapfrogs over Alexander. Bay dropkicks Alexander. Bay ducks a clothesline from Williams. Bay runs Williams into Alexander. Bay goes for the O'Connor roll, but Williams holds onto the ropes. Bay lands the somersault plancha. Williams with the slingshot Hurricane Rana on the floor. Austin super kicks Williams. Austin blasts Raju with the PK. Miguel with the power slide DDT on the floor. Austin and Raju are trading back and forth shots on the top turnbuckle. Raju sends Austin crashing into the cavalry. Raju uses the bull rope to climb up towards the X Division title. Williams with 2 haymakers. Raju reverses out of the Irish whip from Williams. Williams with the Canadian leg sweep. Williams with the lifting flatliner. Bay delivers his combination offense. Bay drops Williams with the famouser. Bay and Miguel are teetering on the red cables. Raju spears Bay in midair. Miguel with a step-up enziguri. Williams punches Miguel in the back. Williams with a straight right hand. Raju uses a steel bar as a weapon. Raju with a double foot stomp. Miguel drop kicks Raju off the steel chair. Williams stops Alexander in his tracks. Williams dumps Alexander out of the ring. Williams with a double leg takedown. Williams applies the sharpshooter. Raju adds a crossface. Bay grabs a side headlock. Ankle lock / sleeper hold / sharpshooter combination. Raju delivers multiple chair shots. Austin sidesteps Raju into the turnbuckles. Austin with a springboard windmill kick. Austin kicks Miguel out of the ring. Austin punches Bay in the back. Austin crawls towards the X Division title. Bay nails Austin with the super cutter. Raju with a jumping knee strike. Williams kicks Raju in the gut. Williams delivers 2 Canadian destroyers. Alexander puts Bay on his shoulders. Doomsday Destroyer. Forearm exchange. Alexander goes for the divine intervention, but Williams counters with the Hurricane Rana. Alexander applies the ankle lock. Alexander denies the Canadian destroyer. Second forearm exchange. Back elbow smash exchange. Raju with a swinging fisherman's neck breaker. Assisted flatliner to Miguel. Raju with a double basement dropkick. Raju with a sliding dropkick to Miguel. Raju finally starts climbing the red cables. Miguel with the scorpion kick. Miguel drops Raju with the lighting spiral. Alexander punches Miguel. Miguel denies the superplex. Alexander with an avalanche exploder suplex. Alexander and Bay are scaling the red cables. Chop exchange. Tug of war. Alexander sends Bay crashing into the canvas. Alexander grabs the X Division title to pick up the victory. Winner, still Impact X Division champion, Josh Alexander. 5th match, Rich Swann, Impact, vs Moose, TNA, in the championship unification match for the Impact World Championship and the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. The winner will battle AEW World Champion Kenny Omega at Impact Rebellion 2021, Impact Sacrifice 2021. Swann starts things off with a running dropkick. Moose grabs Swann by his throat. Moose launches Swann to the corner. Swann repeatedly kicks Moose in the face. Moose goes for the go to hell, but Swann lands back on his feet. Swann avoids the pump kick. Moose catches Swann in midair. Moose goes for a running power slam, but Swann lands back on his feet. Swann sends Moose tumbling to the floor. Swann super kicks Moose. Moose denies the somersault senton. Swann with a back kick. Swann repeatedly drives Moose face first into 3 steel ring posts. Swann resets the referee's 10 count. Swann rolls Moose back into the ring. Moose dumps Swann face first on the top rope. Moose tugs on Swann's dreadlocks. Moose with 2 big Beal throws. Moose whips Swann into the turnbuckles. Swann heads to the outside. Moose rolls Swann back into the ring. Moose with the Irish whip. Swann dives over Moose. Swann drop kicks the left knee of Moose. Swann ducks a clothesline from Moose. Swann continues to drop kick the left knee of Moose. Moose with a back body drop that turns Swann inside out. Moose toys around with Swann. Moose grabs Swann's dreadlocks. The referee admonishes Moose. Moose wraps Swann's dreadlocks around the middle rope. Moose kicks the back of Swann's head. Moose applies a rear chin lock. Moose abuses the referee's 5 count. Moose talks smack to Swann. Moose slaps Swann in the face. Swann is throwing haymakers at Moose. Swann with a spinning back fist. Moose goes for the Uranage slam, but Swann rolls him over for a 2 count. Moose drops Swann with the Uranage slam for a 2 count. Moose wedged a chair in between the turnbuckles. The referee stops Moose in his tracks. Moose with the fallaway slam. Moose whips Swann into the steel barricade. Moose wraps Swann's dreadlocks around the barricade. Swann with 2 palm strikes. Moose punches Swann in the back. Moose rolls Swann back into the ring. Moose applies the abdominal stretch. Swann snaps Moose's fingers. Swann with a straight right hand. Swann with 2 running forearm shivers. Moose drops Swann with the gut buster. Moose puts Swann on his shoulders. Swann hammers down on the back of Moose's neck. Swann with the top rope Frankensteiner. Swann unloads a flurry of right jabs. Swann with a spinning back fist. Swann kicks the left hamstring of Moose. Swann with the roundhouse kick. Swann with a spinning hook kick. Swann goes for the handspring cutter, but Moose counters with the pump kick. Moose goes for a step-up moonsault, but Swann counters with the handspring cutter for a 1 count. Swann super kicks Moose. Swann with a delayed head kick. Swann lands the 450 splash for a 2 count. Moose has Swann perched on the top turnbuckle. Swann denies the superplex. Swann with 2 headbutts. Swann with desperation haymakers. Swann starts biting Moose's forehead. Swann sends Moose crashing into the canvas. Moose connects with the avalanche fallaway moonsault slam for a 2 count. Swann avoids the lights out spear. Swann sends Moose shoulder first into the middle turnbuckle pad. Swann sidesteps Moose into the wedged chair. Moose slings Swann across the ring. Swann rolls Moose over to pick up the victory. Winner, new Unified Impact World Champion, Rich Swann via pinfall. 2021 Impact Wrestling Awards Male Wrestler of the Year, Josh Alexander. The nominees: Josh Alexander, Kenny Omega, Christian Cage, Moose, and Rich Swann. Knockouts Tag Team of the Year, Jordynne Grace and Rachel Ellering. The nominees: Jordynne Grace and Rachel Ellering. The Inspiration, The Influence, The Decay, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. Men's Match of the Year, Josh Alexander vs. TJ Perkins, Iron Man Match, Impact Wrestling June 3, 2021. The nominees: Josh Alexander vs. TJ Perkins, Kenny Omega vs. Rich Swann, Kenny Omega vs. Sami Callihan, Moose vs. Rich Swann, Josh Alexander vs. Christian Cage, Josh Alexander vs. Chris Bay vs. Ace Austin vs. Trey, Miguel vs. Petey, Williams vs. Rohit, Raju. Updated Impact Hard to Kill 2022 match card: Moose, C, vs. Matt Cardona vs. William Morrissey in a triple threat match for the Impact World Championship. Mickie James, C, vs. Deonna Purrazzo in a Texas Death match for the Impact Knockouts World Championship. Josh Alexander vs. Jonah, Jordynne Grace vs. Chelsea Green vs. Rachel Ellering vs. Lady Frost vs. Rosemary with Jessica Havoc vs. Tasha Steelz with Savannah Evans in a Knockouts Ultimate X match. The winner will get a future Impact Knockouts World title match. Jonathan Gresham, C, vs. Chris Sabin for the Raw World Championship. The Inspiration, C, vs. The Influence with Caleb Conley for the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Eddie Edwards, Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Heath, and Rhino vs. The Good Brothers and Violent by Design in a Hardcore War match. Trey Miguel, C, vs. Steve Maclin for the Impact X Division Championship 6th match. Josh Alexander, C, with Petey Williams vs. TJ Perkins with Fallah Bahh in a 60-minute Iron Man match for the Impact X Division Championship. Impact Wrestling June 3, 2021, collar and elbow tie-up. Alexander backs Perkins into the turnbuckles. The referee calls for a clean break. Strong lockup. Perkins applies a side headlock. Alexander whips Perkins across the ring. Alexander drops down on the canvas. Perkins avoids the drop toe hold. Wrist lock exchange. Perkins with a single leg takedown. Perkins applies a toe and ankle hold. Alexander grabs the cross arm breaker. Perkins grapevines the legs of Alexander. Alexander goes for a side headlock, but Perkins counters with a hammer lock. Following a snapmare takeover, Alexander applies a wrist lock. Alexander with a wrist lock takedown. Alexander drives his knee into the left shoulder of Perkins. Perkins with a back heel trip. Second wrist lock exchange. Perkins with a Hurricane Rana. Alexander avoids the rebound dropkick. Alexander gets distracted by Bahh. Perkins with a rebound dropkick. Perkins rolls Alexander back into the ring. Perkins with the slingshot sent in for a 2 count. Perkins drives his knee into Alexander's back. Perkins kicks Alexander in the face. Perkins with a vertical suplex. Perkins with a belly-to-back suplex for a 2 count. Alexander rocks Perkins with a forearm smash. Perkins uppercuts Alexander. Perkins repeatedly stomps on Alexander's chest. Perkins rams his boot across Alexander's face. Alexander drops Perkins with a dragon screw leg whip. Perkins repeatedly kicks Alexander in the chest. Perkins with a single leg pick. Perkins DDTs the left leg of Alexander. Perkins applies a toe and ankle hold. Alexander with a single leg takedown. Alexander applies a standing knee bar. Perkins with a head scissors takedown for a 2 count. Perkins applies a side headlock. Alexander answers with the head scissors neck lock. Alexander uses his legs to crank on Perkins' neck. Alexander denies the Muta lock. Cobra twist exchange. Alexander goes for the divine intervention, but Perkins blocks it. Perkins rolls Alexander over for a 2 count. Perkins applies the cross arm breaker. Perkins transitions into the triangle choke. Alexander responds with the ankle lock. Alexander with 2 German suplexes. Perkins fights out of the fireman's carry position. Perkins kicks Alexander in the face. Perkins with clubbing face washes. Perkins dodges the big boot. Roll-up exchange. Alexander scores the first pinfall of the match with a bridging back press. Alexander applies a front face lock. Perkins grabs the cravate. Alexander goes for a body slam, but Perkins counters with a rear chin lock. Perkins transitions into the cravate. Snapmare takeover exchange. Alexander with a back breaker. Alexander applies a rear chin lock. Alexander with a pendulum backbreaker for a 2 count. Alexander applies the bow and arrow stretch. Alexander fights out of the fireman's carry position. Alexander sends Perkins crashing to the outside. Alexander drives Perkins back first into the steel barricade. Alexander runs Perkins into the edge of the ring frame. Alexander resets the referee's 10 count. Alexander carries Perkins back inside the ring. Perkins applies the cobra twist in the ropes. Alexander trips Perkins from the outside. Perkins repeatedly kicks Alexander in the face. Alexander applies the surfboard stretch in the ropes. Alexander with a forearm shot across the back of Perkins. Alexander rams his forearm across Perkins' face. Perkins goes for a belly-to-back suplex, but Alexander lands back on his feet. Alexander blocks a boot from Perkins. Alexander with a power bomb onto the knee for a 2 count. Perkins ducks under 2 clotheslines from Alexander. Perkins with a running crossbody block for a 2 count. Perkins slides under Alexander. Perkins rolls Alexander over for a 2 count. Perkins applies the Indian death lock. Chop exchange. Perkins denies the ankle lock. Alexander with the delayed vertical suplex for a 2 count. Alexander goes back to the bow and arrow stretch. Alexander with the Irish whip. Alexander applies the gory special. Second roll-up exchange. Perkins figure fours the legs of Alexander. Perkins applies the sharpshooter. Perkins transitions into the Muta lock. Standing switch exchange. Alexander with a release German suplex. Forearm exchange. Knife edge chop exchange. Perkins with a chop/forearm combination. Alexander dumps Perkins face first on the top turnbuckle pad. Perkins applies the octopus stretch. Perkins with the rolling crucifix for a 2 count. Alexander reverses out of the Irish whip from Perkins. Perkins ducks a clothesline from Alexander. Perkins with a springboard forearm smash. Perkins with a leaping meteora. Perkins follows that with the tornado DDT. Perkins with a slingshot pescado. Perkins goes for the tornado DDT, but Alexander counters with the brainbuster on the ring apron. Alexander kicks Perkins in the face. Perkins continues to grab Alexander's ankles. Alexander stands on the back of Perkins' neck. Perkins slaps Alexander in the face. Alexander kicks Perkins in the face. Alexander goes for the divine intervention, but Petey Williams, Chris Sabin, and Trey Miguel gets in the way. Perkins with the tombstone pile driver on the ramp. Alexander gets back in the ring at the count of 9. Perkins with the hell of a kick. Perkins goes for the Mamba splash, but Alexander ducks out of the way. Alexander gets crotched on the top turnbuckle. Perkins gets Alexander tied up in the Tree of Woe. Palm strike exchange. Perkins repeatedly rams his boot across Alexander's face. Perkins with a sliding dropkick. Perkins with the springboard DDT for a 2 count. Perkins follows that with a double chicken wing gut buster for a 2 count. Alexander fights out of the fireman's carry position. Alexander applies a waist lock. Perkins with 3 sharp elbow strikes. Perkins ducks a clothesline from Alexander. Both men are knocked down after a double clothesline. Alexander denies the detonation kick. Alexander goes for the divine intervention, but Perkins counters with the Michinoku driver for a 2 count. Perkins slams Alexander's head on the top turnbuckle. Perkins with another round of face washes. Alexander applies the ankle lock. Perkins connects with the detonation kick for a 2 count. Perkins lands the Mamba splash for a 2 count. Perkins goes for the detonation kick, but Alexander counters with the ankle lock. Perkins applies the knee bar. Alexander responds with another ankle lock. Perkins refuses to quit. Perkins ties things up with the Japanese leg clutch hold as time expires. We're going into sudden death. Second forearm exchange. Alexander uppercuts Perkins. Perkins headbutts Alexander. Perkins delivers his combination offense. Alexander avoids the PK. Alexander with the rolling senton. Alexander lands the moonsault for a 2 count. Alexander with a power bomb onto the knee for a 2 count. Alexander plants Perkins with the divine intervention to pick up the victory. Winner, still Impact X Division Champion, Josh Alexander via pinfall.